faith stories,
My now wife Chelsea was like, "Hey, you're coming to church with me on Sunday," and I was like, "All right, I've been looking at the Bible. Let's do this."
fishing memories.
When I first started, I was just fish, focus on the fish. And I see the kid catch a fish, I'm like, good job, perfect, awesome. And then he goes up there and I'm like, we're catching slot snook. And this kid's up here going, oh, the breeze. I'm like, this is exactly what it's about.
Meaningful conversations.
You have to stay in the Word. You have to have a good support system. You have to know what the end goal is. You have to know who God is.
Positivity. This is the Faith and Fishing Podcast. With your hosts, Cam Steele.
If your identity is you're an angler, whenever you're not doing well in the water, that's whenever you can't be content.
And Robert Randolph.
And his timing is perfect. We might not always agree with it, and we might not always understand it at the moment.
Bring you interviews with some amazing guests from the fishing community and discuss all things to do with fishing and their faith. Welcome to the family.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And before we go too far into the episode, I do want to just give a shout out to our sponsors that help out with the show and let us do what we do. So Aqua Adventure Gear, Omnia Fishing, Jade's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, and Savior Outdoors. All of those, the promo codes that you can use and everything to save money, all that rolls on the credits of your episode at the very end. So make sure that you stick around to the end so that you can hear those, so that you can go and save some money on whatever it is you need to buy. Robert, a couple announcements first. April 17th, we've been announcing it, is going to be our live show for celebrating our 4th birthday of the podcast. So make sure y'all are ready to tune in. We will be live on YouTube, Facebook, and it may just be those two. I think it's those two. Yeah. It'll be those two unless you hear otherwise. And then, so last week on the Tackle Talk podcast, Andrew Hayes announced a donation that he's participating in, where he gave us his Venmo so that we could send him money, and he's going to buy all kinds of tackle and gear for kids, for anglers, or for kids for fishing, and this is for a charity tournament that they're holding up in I believe it's up in Ohio where he is, in honor of a 6-year-old who lost his battle with cancer, and so just wanted to go ahead and give. I figured there might be someone listening to this show that does not listen to his, however unlikely that is. So I wanted to give his information on that. Also, I reached out to him and got permission to do this. But so if you have Venmo, you can send Andrew money at ahaze13. That's AHAZE13 on Venmo. And that is his account, so that you can go and make a donation there. And it will probably ask you for a confirmation code, which would be the last 4 digits of his phone number, or the phone number on the account, probably an old one, but it's 0241. So just wanted to throw that out there and make sure that y'all go and support that. Always awesome to see fishing gear get into the hands of kids, and it's I can't imagine what that family's going through. So anything we can do to help out there is going to be big. But yeah, that's all I've got in terms of announcements. Robert, how are you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Been a crazy past week or so. Just been busy with work stuff, and got to fish a little bit. Went over to the pond at lunchtime and caught a good one today. So bass seem to be moving up. Water's still pretty dirty at that place, but I know I drive across Sharon Harris every day, so I kind of get to see at least the water quality. Sometimes I'll stop and throw a line in every once in a while, but that's really all the fishing I've done. And last week, I know there was a local Burlington Bass tournament. I was filming stuff for our church youth weekend, so at the first of the end of last week, I was kind of saying, man, I wish I was fishing this tournament, and but really they needed help with that, and I was able to help them out. And then it wasn't like 5 hours into it or not even 5, 2 or 3 hours into it on Friday night, I'm like, yeah, this is where I should be at. And the fishing tournament is really like not even close to as important as what I was able to help them do over the weekend, and videoed their events and stuff, and put that together for them so they could show it on Saturday night at kind of the the last get together in the main service hall. They showed the video, and it was pretty good. So had a great weekend doing that, and hanging out with all those guys and girls. And we were a host home for it as well, on top of the filming. So we had the high school, one group of the high school boys stayed at our house. So we had 8 people in the house, and got to cook breakfast for almost 100 people at the church. And then so it was a busy weekend, and I'm glad that everybody went up there. It seemed like everybody caught quite a few fish, and some couple of those little sleeper lakes up there. That was a multi-lake event. For you guys that are listening or not familiar with the Burlington Bash, I think you could pick from 5 different lakes, and most of them are on the smaller side, with the exception of McIntosh is a medium-sized lake, but everybody thought it was going to be one on McIntosh, and I don't think that was the case. I think at least the top 2 were not on McIntosh. I think that's right. Just I haven't been on social media much or looking at a lot of stuff, but I think I did see that.
Okay.
But that's really about it for me. What about you?
So in terms of fishing, nada. Have not done any kind of fishing. It's hard to get out at all whenever you're on call, and but I was able to acquire a new piece of gear. I shouldn't say new. I found a very good used deal on on Side View. So I'm gonna move up in the electronics world a little bit, and see how much it helps. I've heard that going from 2D to side scan or side view or whatever you want to call it is can be quite the jump. So in terms of what you can do with it, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Yeah.
I think you're going to like that, and it really. The biggest thing that it helped me do was find rock piles, brush piles, and there's a lot of times on that side view you can see the bass. And to me, because I don't have live scope, but to me, a lot of times I can see the bass better and know what they are on the side view than what I would think I would be able to see with the live scope. Obviously, that's not true, because people are catching the fire out of them using forward-facing sonar, so they're able to see that a lot easier than myself. But when I look at other people's forward-facing sonar screens, it's confusing to me, just because I haven't been able to sit there and tinker with it and figure out what all of it means. But on the side scan, I can see the brush pile and I can see the fish. I can see the rock pile and I can see the fish. So that is a huge benefit.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm looking forward to giving it a shot. I will say I feel like on forward facing sonar, a lot of it is behavior. You learn the behavior of certain fish. Like you can see how this one moves, and it's like, oh, that one's a carp, that one's a gar, that one's a bass, that one's striper.
Right.
But yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some of the meat of the episode, but first let's say thank you to Get Outdoors.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on the water courses and demos, and will even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or visit them online at shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
All right, so you kind of had a fun topic to dive into this episode, so I'm going to let you kind of get it started and steer it in the right direction.
Yeah, sure. Well, we were kind of talking before the show and kind of figuring out what the show is going to be about, and I had a busy past 5 or 6 days at work, plus kids ball, and then the church deal where I was filming. And one of the only things that really stuck out kind of from this week of the limited amount that I saw of fishing content or social media, I saw that Cash and Rods came out with 2 new rods, and they're labeled forward facing sonar rods, so FFS rods. And some of the buzz or comments around them, well, they were kind of, I mean, honestly, they were kind of beating up on Cashin for, using marketing gimmicks to sell products. And I saw several people that also commented that this is what businesses do. That's the part of business, is to market things so people will buy them. So, we came up with the idea of kind of just having a discussion about marketing and how that, how the marketing machine, so to speak, guides our purchases and our wants and what we think we need. But, to go back and finish on the FFS rods from Cashin, they came out with a rod, and they went to one of their pros, John Cruz, and they said, hey, what, we don't have a specific rod for forward facing sonar. What rod is going to be best for these Demiki rigs and, the ball head jigs that people are using for the forward facing sonar? So, he gave them some specs and what he would like to see. I'm sure there was some testing that went back and forth. I don't know the whole process, but not of that process. But we have talked to Jody Queen, and we did hear a couple episodes ago how long they worked on those kayak rods to get them the way that Jody and those guys wanted those. Corey and Casey Reed, they did a lot of work on those rods and went back and forth several times, and I'm sure the forward-facing sonar rods had some type of R&D research that went into them, some back and forth, and change this, change that. And so they came out with these rods and, kind of caught a lot of grief about, just marketing, this, because this is such a hot button topic. And if you have been watching any bass fishing on TV at all, you know that all of these tournaments so far are being won with forward-facing sonar, and it's just, you are seeing the world of bass fishing change in the past couple of years more than it's changed in a very long time. If not, I mean, it may be the most change ever in bass fishing, but so I just think marketing is part of it. I don't think people should bash on companies for marketing and different products. They didn't go back and relabel rods they already had. They built new rods that they contacted one of their pros that helped them get the specifications on. And so it was just an interesting topic, and that's kind of how it came up. But then you can also, the same topic, I mean, I truly believe if in my soft plastic bag I had black, white, and a green pumpkin, I would probably catch just as many fish as the 200 or 300 colors of soft plastics that I now have, because I am the same as everybody else. I fall victim to, oh well, and I did it for the Lake Murray Bassmaster event. Um, Missile Baits has a blueback herring color, and so I ordered some Missile Baits blueback. I think it's called Blueback Magic, um, and because I needed that specific color because I was going to fish Lake Murray, and that is what you know. That is what supposedly that color is going to catch bass on Lake Murray. Well, we all know how that worked out. So I probably would have been better off with just the black or the white or the green pumpkin. But I thought I needed those. And so that's what I bought. And then if you go look through my tackle box, you can see it in every aspect. And rods, so. And rods and reels, I'm not going to go out and have 50 different rods and reels. But I do want to have a specific setups for the types of fishing or the types of baits that I want to throw. And I don't want to have to retie all day long. So I do have probably, I would say, 5 what I call pretty nice setups. And then I probably have another 3 or 4 not so nice setups, but I don't use those techniques quite as much. So, you can kind of go into different aspects of fishing, and the same thing with kayaks, the same thing with boats. We all, and it's, I mean, obviously we're a fishing podcast, a faith and fishing podcast. So we're talking about marketing and fishing, but you can take that and look at anything in your house or anything that you own, cars, trucks, the latest and greatest 60-inch, flat screen TV. You know, Nowadays we all think that we have to have the best because we want to catch the most fish, or we want to have this nice TV on our wall. And, you know, you really now just there's so much screen time that there's so many things, and now they can even pinpoint down your likes from what you type into your search engines to what you're viewing on your social media. Probably they're listening to us do this podcast right now. And if I mention, you know, fitted bed sheets, then fitted bed sheets will come up in some feed, and I'll be like, oh my God, they were listening. Because I think we've all had that happen. We talk about something and then we're scrolling on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and then an ad comes up for what we were talking about. So the marketing machine is just getting more and more data. More and more people are collecting data on us, so they're
Sorry to
able to
all of our listeners
pinpoint it.
sorry to all of our listeners who are now getting targeted ads for fitted bed sheets.
But it's crazy. Like, it's crazy just the marketing machines that drive all the sales of all these products that we all own. And like I said, I'm not pointing fingers and telling people that, I mean, I'm part of it too. I mean, I've got things that I don't need. I've got definitely fishing gear that I thought like, oh yeah, I've got to have that. I've got to order that bait, but you probably don't. And especially if you're not fishing tournaments, what really do you need to go catch fish? You don't need all the crap that I have in my garage, for sure. I mean, go get some soft plastic worms, get you a Texas rig and a offset hook, and go buy a cheap bait caster from Walmart and go throw it in a pond somewhere. You're going to catch fish. Um, so I just think that, according to what your goals are, you got to kind of rope yourself in sometimes and figure out like, okay, I just want to go fish and have a good time. What do I need to do that? And then get those items. And we don't need every color of rainbow of soft plastics, or same with jackhammers. I probably don't need or bladed jigs in general. I like jackhammers, but I prefer thunder crickets because I don't think they're thrown as much. But I had to buy some slobber knockers when they came out because that was the next greatest thing. So now they just sit there. I don't throw them that much. I tie on their thunder crickets because I have more confidence in them. So now you have this big box of different kinds of bladed jigs. Um, I don't know. That was just a kind of a fun topic that I think that we all get sucked into, and I think it's a good time to kind of step back and look and see. And there almost like needs to be a checklist that you need to put yourself through before you hit buy on Amazon. And that's part of the problem too, is the everything now deal. Like I can go on Amazon and buy something and it's at my front door tomorrow. Most of the time, if it's not tomorrow, it's definitely there the next day. And it's like, what in the world? You don't even have to go to the store anymore. You just go on your phone and they bring it to your door. Like what kind of universe are we living in anyway? It's crazy, like, to think about the difference between now and, let's just say, when I graduated high school, which was the early 90s, 30 something years ago. Man, it's a whole different ball game. And it's just, it's crazy to set back in all the things that have changed. But the marketing machine and what we really need, is what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you get sucked into it? Do you have tackle that you don't need, or
Do I have tackle I don't need? First, let me say, let me just go ahead and throw this out there. In my opinion, Cashin does not do gimmicks, and the forward facings on our rods are not gimmicks from Cashin. Can they be used for other things? Yes, but these were specifically designed by professionals to do one thing extremely well, and that's kind of the case with all of their rods. They're technique specific rods. Like, sure, I can throw a spinner bait on a chattergrass rod, or I can throw probably a light Texas rig on a chattergrass rod or something. But if I am pulling a bladed jig through grass, the chattergrass rod is the perfect rod for that. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of throw that out there, that I do not think that Cashin is doing any kind of marketing gimmicks here. Like, this is like they saw a niche in the market that they could throw a rod into, and that's just, that's what they do, is they find a hole that they can fit in, and they put a peg in it. So
smart
but
business?
yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of what I have fallen into, so I went through a phase in my fishing journey where I was extremely, I was the one who I I went and I bought everything Biospawn because Fluke Master was sponsored by Biospawn, and he was throwing Biospawn baits. And then, Fluke Master would come out with an episode on the Tokyo rig. So I went and I bought a whole bunch of Tokyo rigs, and like, there were certain influencers on and YouTubers and Instagram people that they would they would market something and I would immediately go for it. And I have stepped back from that now, very much so. My biggest thing right now is I find a small business that I haven't gone for before, and I want to see what they do. Catchy baits, or deep creek lures, or um, uh, what are some others? Stuff like Jade's Jigs and Mr. B Lure Company. The the little guys that maybe not everybody has heard of, but um, and in some cases probably don't have the same quality plastic that Z-Man or Nico Baits or Missile Baits has, um, but the fact that it's, whenever I purchase something, I'm not purchasing something from a big company. I'm purchasing it from that guy,
Yeah.
like Mr. B Lure Company. Like, I know whenever I buy a bladed jig from them or a swim jig from them or a spinner bait from them, I know that bait was made by Mr. B, and I am purchasing it from Mr. B. Jay's Jigs, I know that if I purchase a hair jig or if I purchase a Ned rig from them, I am purchasing that from Joey. It was made by Joey. So that's been kind of my big thing right now. But I do like, but I go in there and I look and I'm like, oh, I need that color and I need that color. I need that color. I need that color. And it's like, what happens if I go in and I look and I see that the crawfish in the lake are this color? I need those too. Um, so I do try to slim it down some. But what are the marketing techniques that get you?
I think some of the same ones that you just mentioned is uh, not necessarily like I do watch a lot of product videos. People are talking about either baits or kayaks, and I think kayaks are a big one as well because um, people get on the kick about the new kayaks that are coming out. And I'll go with Bonafide because I have two of them, and I will tell you that I'm in no way affiliated with Bonafide. The reason that I have Bonafide kayaks is because that's the one that I found on Facebook Marketplace that I could afford that was close enough for me to go pick up in the back of my truck. And so I went and purchased a SS 127 for $1,000 that already had the yak power on it. It already had 360 light on it. It was already rigged out. It had a one objective mount on the back because he had been running just a regular trolling motor, but it had the one objective mount, and he had a trolling motor mounted on in the rear with. I think he had foot steering hooked up to that, but I took it off. So I bought that SS 127, and it's a great kayak, and you will be hard pressed to find people online or anywhere else that says differently. Everybody agrees that that is a great platform. Are there platforms that are more stable? Are there different pedal systems? Obviously, the SS 127 is not a pedal kayak, but if you want a pedal kayak, if you're comparing those things, you know, are there better kayaks out there? It's according to the user. Some people will tell you, no, this is the best one. I've moved from some people. I read it online at some point in time in the last week. Somebody went from from Bonafide to a Hobie and back to a Bonafide SS 127 because they didn't like this or that about the Hobie. But lo and behold, they come out with a P127. There's nothing wrong with my SS 127 besides the fact I wanted to fish a trail that didn't allow motors. I wanted to fish some Hobie, so I went and I was all excited because I had this SS 127. I went and I purchased a P127 when they came out because I'm like, man, if I can just have this SS 127 with pedals on it, I'm going to be set. I can put a motor on it. I can use my pedals when I need to use my pedals for the non-motor things. And so when I got the P127, I put the bow mounted XI3 that I had on the SS 127. I was sadly disappointed that it did not perform like the SS-127 because of the way the deck was deeper, because you have to account for the pedals going down into the deck. Um, I think there's less maybe airspace or something because of that inside. It just didn't sit as high in the water. I I didn't like the bow mounted trolling motor on that. Now, if you take the bow mounted trolling motor off of that and you're only using it as a pedal kayak, um, it's great. But I wanted to be able to do both of those things. And so that kayak really didn't work the way I thought it was going to, but I bought it because that was what they were coming out with. And I had to have that kayak specifically because that was the one that I wanted, and they marketed it. And I don't think they weren't deceiving people in the marketing. It just, I don't think that probably maybe enough testing went into it. I don't think it was ever made for a bow mounted trolling motor, which I never really even thought of, but I still have the P127. I love it. I think it's more stable than the SS127 because the deck's lower, but I don't have the bow mounted trolling motor on that boat. I can use it, but when I use it, I know if I want to use spot lock and use the bow mounted trolling motor, it has to be on days that are not going to be windy, and it's not going to be very rough water because I know it's going to sit a little bit lower in the front. So, um, here we go again on another marketing thing. What did I do? Well, I couldn't use the front. I couldn't use the bow mounted trolling motor, so I had to go buy an NK180. So I put the NK180 on the back because now I don't want to get beat to the spots, you know, like that matters with me. It's really not going to matter if somebody beats me to the spot that I go to because I'm usually not going to a winning spot. So why does that even matter to me? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just being for real. Like, who cares if I have an NK180? I'm not going to the best spots anyway. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. But in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting this because I want to be the fastest guy. I want to go 5.2 miles an hour instead of 4.8. And it's just, it's marketing and it's getting in your own head because I want to be the best at this. And it really, at the end of the day, kind of like the tournament this weekend, I was bummed that I wasn't going to fish it. But then when I started seeing all these kids and the stuff that they were getting out of this weekend, I'm like, man, I sure do love fishing. But I told my wife because she was helping with the event too. And I was like, but this is really where I needed to be at this weekend, is right where I'm at. And so a lot of times we get into these things and we think all these things matter, but you know, you just have to step back. And sometimes you can't see it for all the stuff that's going on in our busy lives, and we just get all wrapped up. And I think that's what's cool about fishing is you can, even though we're sitting here talking about fishing being some of this, grind and then marketing and thinking we need all these things. But when you get out on the water and you're catching a bass, or like today when I had a lunch break and I went to the pond, and it took me a while to catch that fish, but it was a nice, probably almost 3 pounds. It was between 2.5 and 3 pounds. And I was like, yeah, this is what it's all about. I only had, it's one of those days I had the rod in the back of the truck, but I didn't have the tackle box, and I had a couple of baits like rolling around the floorboard. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna be throwing a wacky rig today because that's the hook that's tied onto this thing. And then I need to scrounge around and find a Cinco in the floorboard. And I put that joker on there, and we went and we caught a fish. And sometimes that's even better than going out in a fully rigged kayak and going, whatever, 5.5 miles to a spot and catching one. It's those days when you're like, well, we got one hook. If I get snagged up and break off, that's going to be the end of your. It's only a 45 minutes long anyway, but so I don't know. It's just kind of and I know I'm kind of just going off topic, but back to the kind of the P127 and the SS127. Now everybody's on to the Power 127. I haven't even been in that boat. So
I hear a lot of good things about it.
I do too. And I'm sure it's a great boat. Or kayak. I'm sure it's a great kayak. So I love Bonafide. at some point I'll probably own a Power 129. But to myself, and when I'm thinking about it, is like, I don't think it's going to be better than the SS 127. I really don't. I think maybe it's going to sit a little higher. I think there may be some things. Okay, it has panels that you can replace once you drill holes in them, and you can replace that panel if you don't want the holes anymore. Is that really a huge deal if you rig your kayak correctly? And like, I know people run wires and whatever. I mean, there's through hole kits, and I look at some of the stuff that I do on my kayaks, and I'll drill a hole in the top of it. I have a place where I can put a YOLO-Tech on both of my kayaks to film over my left shoulder. Well, to put those in, I drilled a hole right in the top of it, and I put a boat outlet like you run the 360 lights out of a bass boat. I put the same outlet because I wanted to put a YOLO-Tech on my kayak. But guess what? If water's getting in that hole, you've lost the battle already. If water is getting in the top of your kayak is already sinking. That hole is not gonna. Now, once you get on the side, if you're putting in an anchor trolley, something like that, you're down at the water level. That's a different story. But I don't have a problem putting a hole in a kayak as long as it's not close to the water line, especially on the surfaces that face up. Because if you're, like I said, if water's getting up in there, that hole is not your problem. So the Power 129 with the panels and stuff is nice, but I also think it's like, we got to come out with this new kayak. Let's rebuild the SS 127, and we're going to call it the Power 129, and we're going to have some removable plates because now motors are popular. So it serves a purpose. It's not a marketing gimmick, but I'm not going to sell my 127 to get the 129, even though I think I like it. I don't know. When I will have one, and I probably will still have all three of them. I'll have the SS 127, the P 127, and the Power 129. And there'll probably be things that I like better about the Power 129, and there'll be things I like better about the P 127, the SS 127. But just a perfect example. I'm sitting here saying that I need 3 kayaks. I can only fish out of one, and there's not going to be that much difference in them. You know what I'm saying? So we're back to square one.
Yeah. So let me ask you your opinion on this. In your opinion, where we are in the fishing industry, how much do pro staffs actually move the needle?
So to me, there's 2 different kinds of pro staffs. And I would tell you right now that I am not affiliated with anybody except the people that sponsor this podcast. And in no way, shape, or form do I get money from that. And I know that you're the same way. They sponsor us enough to, pay for StreamYard, which is not that much money. So our sponsors are not sending us cash money. And,
No, not at all.
and promo, to be on a pro staff, you are basically saying, I am going to promote your items. That's what the pro staff is. So if you are on a pro staff of let's just say a company, and let's go outside of the fishing world. Let's say you're on the pro staff of Chevrolet Trucks. And Chevrolet Trucks is going to pay you to promote their product. So you're getting money to promote their product. So maybe the reason that they hired you is because you have had 10 Chevrolet trucks and you always buy Chevrolet trucks and you always put 200,000 miles on them and then you go buy a new one. And so maybe you're a content creator or whatever you're doing and you're always showing your truck, and that you have so many followers on your YouTube channel, and you may have a promo code, and then somebody's going in and saying, you know what, Cam Steele said you have the best trucks, and I'm going to use this promo code and I'm going to buy a truck because he looks cool driving his truck to all his kayak tournaments. So you're moving the needle on it. Now, that's the first kind of pro staff. The second kind of pro staff is because somebody wants to be a pro staff. And so maybe this other guy, let's just say that's me, Ford comes out and they say, hey, we need people to be pro staffs for our trucks. And so I see an ad on Facebook that says they're hiring pro staffs. Well, I've got a Ford truck. I want to be on your pro staff. And so I fill out my application and they say, great, you're on our pro staff, go promote these things and then tag us in them. But they're not giving me any money. But you're getting paid by Chevrolet because you're moving trucks and they can see your sales. But I just want to say that I want to be like Cam Steele and I want to be a pro staffer too. So I'm pro staffing for Ford and I'm showing them my Ford truck, but nobody's watching my videos. I'm really not that good of a content creator. I'm not moving the needle for them, but people do watch my stuff every once in a while. Ford's not losing any money. I'm not embarrassing them. I'm not trashing their product or, so they're going to keep me on as a pro staff because I keep doing this basically for free because I want to be called the Ford pro staff guy. So those are the two different kinds of pro staffs. So the Cam Steele type pro staff that's working for Chevrolet is moving product. And that's the type person who can eventually turn this fishing deal, truck driving deal, however you let's go back to fishing now. That's the type of person that can get money from companies by doing great content, moving the needle. And hopefully I don't ruin what you have going because I am doing stuff for free because I want to be a pro staffer too. So I do think the real people that are doing it and moving the needle, I do think that they I do think that they move the needle and they make a difference for these companies. Otherwise, you wouldn't see all of these companies putting out this money and you wouldn't see the shift from tournament anglers who are winning tournaments is where the money used to go. And so now, when's the last time some of these big names have won a tournament in pro fishing? Sometimes, some of them, it's been a long time since they've won a tournament, or some of them, it's been a long time since they've been in contention. But I would tell you one thing, there were people, when I'm looking on Instagram, I don't care if that guy's won a tournament in the last 20 years because I like to hear his take on what's going on right now. And I'm going to stop and I'm going to listen. And if that dude's driving a dang Chevrolet truck, I might dang go purchase one because I respect his opinion so much and I like to listen to him talk on Instagram or whatever platform you're using. So it's definitely working because you see all these companies shifting that money from the tournament winners. Not to say they don't make money because they do. That's how you gain a lot of followers is winning tournaments and you get credibility. But, my fear is that these companies that are just keeping people on for free and people are doing it for free are going to start cutting in, So what's better? The real question is what's better? Is one Cam Steele selling Chevrolet trucks to, let's say you sell 100 trucks from your YouTube videos. Let's say I only sell one Ford truck. You selling 100, I'm selling one. But there's 300 of me that they're not paying.
I was getting ready to say, yeah.
I mean, they're selling 300 trucks for free, and you're only selling 100 and they're paying you. Who's the smarter marketing person, Ford or Chevy?
Right. So there's another kind of pro staff. So I kind of separate those two as sponsor and pro staff. If you're getting paid, that's a sponsorship. And then if you are getting a discount code, that's pro staff. So there's another kind of pro staff. I kind of separate it as there are pro staffs that are hard to get onto, and there are pro staffs that take anybody. And the pro staffs that are hard to get onto, that pro staff team tends to move product and by influencing other people to buy that product. Now, the ones that take everybody, the way they end up moving product is they sell it to the pro staff at a discount.
Yeah.
So they're not really influencing other people to buy that product. What they're doing is they're saying let's it takes us $5 to make this bait. So let's sell it at $10 and give our pro staff a 20% discount code or a 10% discount code. We're still making money off of that bait, but they think that they're getting a really good deal. So we send out these applications. We take everybody who signs up. And everybody who signs up, the first thing they do is they go and they buy $75 worth of baits at a discounted price. So, and they keep coming back and using their pro staff code to get discounted tackle. They get discounted tackle. We get sales that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise, because without us doing this, they're going to go to Strike King. But because they're getting a discount, they're coming to us.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of pro staff too. And from a marketing standpoint, to me, that kind of pro staff doesn't really move the needle that much. It might to a certain extent, but
Well, I
to
don't think.
me that kind of pro staff is not as valuable as the pro staff that is out there. It's a smaller group of people, and they're still, buying your product at a discounted rate, but they're also promoting it, and they are actually moving product from other people.
Right, from other people. So I mean that's a great point, and I think it goes back to just what kind of company that you're talking about, and I think true companies that have some values are going to go, let's say, with that 30-man pro staff team who are moving the needle and they're getting other people to buy it. And are they getting the product at a discount as well? Sure. Why not reward them with a discount for product that they're getting? Versus I'll say a company that has maybe some less values or a different marketing approach, however you want to word that. They got 3,000 people that are not moving the needle to other people, but they're selling to 3,000 people that they wouldn't have been selling to. So they're just using that pro staff as a sales tool, not really even worried about what they're doing. And I've done it. I was on with a tungsten company. And so they're like, oh yeah, sign up and you got to send us this and you got to tag us in this many post and you get this discount, but to stay on here you have to order X dollars per year, and then at the end of the year if you haven't ordered the right, and I'm like, so I ordered some tungsten from them because honestly I am a cheapskate and I don't have a whole lot of tungsten until I did get on with them. And so I was like, you know what, I was going to order some tungsten anyway, so let's try this out. Ordered the tungsten. There's a huge difference in tungsten and lead. I mean, it's just a better product. However, to me, it's not so much better that I need the dollar amount that they wanted me to spend on it. And it hurts me so bad if I'm have to break off a Texas rig and I have a dang 3/8 or tungsten on it. And I'm like, oh gosh. I mean, that hurts when you break that off. But the lead ones, man, I got buckets of lead in the garage and I can pour those things for nothing. And so most of the time I'm using still lead ones, but I didn't stay on with that tungsten company because I didn't want to spend the amount of money they wanted me to spend to stay on their pro staff. And I'm like, this is stupid. They're just using all these people to buy their product. So I only did the first little bit. And then when it was time to renew, I didn't, because that's not what I want to be a part of. And I don't even think I ever promoted their product, honestly, because by the time I figured it all out, kind of what it was, I was like, yeah, I don't even really want to be associated with that. I don't want to put it out there that I'm on their pro staff because that's embarrassing to me. You know what I mean? So there's those companies too that everybody knows that, oh, well, you're on such and such pro staff. Well, oh, yeah. I mean, there's like 10,000 people on that pro staff. They're just selling you product.
Right.
So, but it's another thing. This is what we're talking about. That's another marketing tool for them to sell product to 10,000 pro staffers, or how many? You know, I'm just being funny, making up numbers, but that's another marketing tool to catch people, fishermen, whoever. And same thing. You got to make the baits pretty because you want to catch the fishermen. It doesn't really matter if they catch the fish or not. If you can catch the angler's eyeball when they're looking at the racks or Amazon or Omnia, you want those baits to look good.
Yeah.
So interesting topic for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, man, let's go with what's your favorite. I've got a couple what's your favorite questions that I'm excited about. So let's dive into it.
It's time for What's Your Favorite? Powered by Nakwa Adventure Gear. Power that fits in the palm of your hand.
All right. So, I tell you what, I'll let you go first.
I knew you were going to do that, but that's okay because I was prepared because I'm like, you know what? He's going to come back on. He's going to say, why don't you go first? So I have two what's your favorite questions, and they're in the same category. So the first one I'm going to ask is, what's your favorite vehicle, car, truck, whatever? What's your favorite one you've owned, and why was that your favorite?
Oh man, so I had a 4-cylinder, 5-speed, 95 Ford Ranger with the extended cab.
Ranger danger.
Yes, sir. Why was that my favorite? So that was the truck I learned how to drive a stick on. There's just something about your truck,
Oh, yeah.
that was my truck, and I had so many great memories in that truck. It was a tank. Um, you could roll that thing over in the parking lot as long as you landed on all four wheels. You were driving away from it. And it had the dents and the dings and the scrapes to prove it. I had a lot of bad luck in that truck, but it, yeah, my 95 Ford Ranger,
All right.
the tank. What
Well,
about
that's a
you?
good one because I like Ford Rangers. So uh, I've had one, and then my son drives one now, extended cab, same. It probably looks the same as the 95. I think his is a '04, but he
Yeah,
likes his Ranger too. But the
very.
funniest thing about Rangers to me is the Instagram reels or the whatever the audio clip is, and everybody will always put it in when their Ranger is doing something crazy, and it's that guy. He's like, "It's a Ford Ranger," and then I'll leave the middle part out, and it is those videos crack me up because there are some crazy Ford Ranger owners out there. I think they take the cake on like the crazy, and maybe because that so many of those were made and bought that it covers such a wide variety of people that it's those videos are crazy. You can go down a rabbit hole on watching
Oh yeah.
Ford Ranger videos.
But yeah, I mean, having to load the bed of the truck with cinder blocks every time it snowed, and
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
just so many great memories in that thing.
All right. So my follow up question is kind of the same, but a little different. So your favorite car that you wish you could own. So you may not have had this car, but I guess maybe your dream car, like, oh, if I won the lottery, this is what I would get.
If I won the lottery, I'm buying an F-150.
There you go.
And I'm gonna get one of the real high trim packages, King Ranch or Titanium or something. And yeah,
Hey, I tell you what, I remember when that King Ranch package first came out. My buddy's dad owned a body shop, and he called me. He goes, "Man," he goes, "you're not gonna believe this." He goes, "They just brought one of these new King Ranch Fords down here. You got to come down here and look at this thing." And I fell in love with that from the first time I saw it. I've never owned one with that package in it. I've owned quite a few F-150s, most of them work trucks, but um, that King Ranch package and those seats and that is, I think, the best looking interior package of any truck. All right, well, hey, that's my favorite. So that's your favorite.
all right. What was your favorite vehicle that you've owned?
Um, yeah, I like all my vehicles that I've owned, but I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna give you two. The first one was my first car because I was dead set that my first car was going to be a Cutlass Supreme. So that was my first car. It was an '82 Cutlass Supreme, and I drove that car until like my first year of college. So for 3 years, and then unfortunately, it ran under the back of an 18-wheeler, and that was the end of that car. But luckily, not the end of me, which that could have happened that day as well. But I was wearing my seatbelt, and if I had not have been wearing my seatbelt, I wouldn't be guest hosting this podcast. I'm quite sure. But I love that car. I wanted that particular body style, and that was a good one. And then my other one, I bought a '98 Z71 extended cab, brand new, off the lot. I had a real job. I was making really good money running restaurants, and I decided that I wanted a big boy truck, and I got a big boy truck along with a big boy truck payment. And I figured out real quick. I was a couple years into paying that payment, and I told my dad, I said, probably going to be the last brand new truck that I ever buy. And I was stuck true to my words. I've never bought a brand new one off the lot except for that '98 white Z71 with a burgundy leather interior. Yeah, it was a nice truck, but it had a nice price tag and a nice payment to go along with it. So that's my two.
And what was your your answer to the other one? If you won the lottery, like what's
Let's see.
your favorite, like the one that you would buy?
I would probably go I'd probably get like a 4-door Chevrolet with the I don't even know what they call that package now. I don't know. They have factory trucks that come already with the lift kit and the wheels on them. I can see them sitting down at John Heister now, but I can't remember the name of the package on the Chevrolets. But I still like the Chevrolet GMCs. That's um, I've got a 2500 now. That's a extended cab and a Chevy Tahoe. But I'd get another Chevrolet 4-door, just you know. But now, I mean, you almost have to win the lottery. I mean, those trucks out the door now are $100,000.
Oh yeah,
And I'm like, oh, that's a dang half a house or a house. I mean, it's crazy. Like when you, so I don't even know. Like when this comes out, I will have turned 50. I'm not 50 when we're recording it, but when this comes out, I will have turned 50. So, you go back to, remember when you were a kid, and I remember like kids used to be able to pump gas. And so I would get out and fill our car up with gas, and it was 75 cents a gallon, 80 cents a gallon. And you used to could just stop at the gas station, fill your car up, and then go in and pay them. And I know to some of you younger people, that's kind of going to blow your mind. Like you didn't have to go in and pay. When you pulled up, they just turned the pump on and you pumped your gas and you went in and paid them with cash because there were no debit cards. And so, you go from seeing that. And I think the house I grew up in, I think my mom and dad told me they paid $35,000 for it. And it's That's nice. There's 2-story brick ranch house. I mean, but now 35,000. I mean, honestly, we bought that the used Tahoe that was. I mean, it's a new model Tahoe, but it had already had 50, 60,000 miles on it. I paid as much for that Tahoe as my mom and dad paid for their house. I mean, that's crazy to think about. Like, in 50 years, the price of a house is now the price of a decent used vehicle. So, in context, 50 years from now, a decent used vehicle will cost you about 200,000. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, what is your favorite podcast theme song?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. That's Biloxi Blues, Luke Duncan, all day. You got it. Do you have it queued up so you can play it? I see you looking at your board up there.
What podcast is it?
It's it's Luke Duncan live, not so live. It's the Traveling Circus, or you can just pull it up on Spotify or YouTube. It's Biloxi Blues.
Have to be logged in.
There you go.
Give me just a second to log in here. We'll get it going.
Damn these Biloxi blues, it happens every night. And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine.
I have not. You had to put it in there, as he always talks over the top of it. So
yeah, I don't want to play the whole thing because I don't want to get in trouble. But nice, very solid pick. So mine is a little more out there. Let's see. So mine is the theme song for the carp fishing podcast. So it starts off like this.
Well, welcome back to the Carp Fishing Podcast episode.
Just the way they
cool. Yeah.
They incorporate the birds, and then the music comes in and fits in with the birds.
Yeah.
Like, the geese honk to the beat and everything.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That reminds me of today when I went over there fishing. I was sitting there fishing and I heard some geese way off in the distance, and then they honked again. I'm like, oh, they're getting closer. They honked again, and I'm like, oh, they may be coming like right here. So the pond that I fish is a long strip, and then there's a strip of woods, and then there's another pond on the other side of it that's another long strip. So they came in, they circled around, and I stopped. I didn't want them to see me. I was standing on the edge of the bank, so if I moved, I knew I would draw their attention. So I stopped, and they circled around, and they like came right in front of me, and they were honking. And then I stood still for a second, and then I had to cast because I hadn't caught a fish at that point. So I was like, all right, enough of the geese. And so as soon as I casted, they, of course, took off. But that reminded me of that.
Very nice. And for the other one, it's not as exciting or unique or anything, but what's your favorite creature bait?
I'm gonna have to go with a I'm gonna give you 2 on this too, because my favorite creature bait would probably be, overall, I'm going to say a Z-Man Turbo Crawl. I like those because they're durable and they float. And so I feel like you get some extra strikes on them because the tails of them will float up when you're flipping. So I like those. However, I probably catch more fish when I was using this. I used this bait a lot for a long time when it came out, and it was again one of those marketing things when the Googans came out with their soft plastics and that Bandito bug came out. Man, I caught a ton of fish on a Bandito bug. However, I bought a ton of Bandito bugs because they are the least durable soft plastic I have ever used, and bar none, and second's not even close. You might as well rake out jelly onto your hook and just throw damn grape jelly out into the water on your hook, because that is what the Bandito bug, that's about the durability of it. But you can catch fish. So I stopped, I guess got mad one day, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not buying any more of them. And I haven't bought any more. I still have some just in case, like, I get desperate and I need to, if I'm not catching something, I'll put one of those on. But I haven't bought any more because that they could have made that more durable, but it catches fish.
Okay. So my number one is hands down the Missile Baits D-Bomb. I have caught more fish on that than any other non-worm soft plastic. But I will say there's another one that I absolutely love, and I don't use it all the time. It's a muddy water bait for me, and that is the Strike King Rage Tail Space Monkey.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one too.
That one, if I'm somewhere and it has just rained and I know that I need a whole bunch of crazy action and I need to get it right up against the cover and everything, the Space Monkey is the one I go to there. But in terms of like the one that I never on the water without, it's the D-Bomb in the Superbug color.
Yeah, those are both good. I've used both of those, and I like both of those as well.
I will say the Space Monkey, I lose arms on it pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
The D-Bombs are fairly durable. They're not, they're not Z-Man or Nico. But I mean, I can usually catch 2 or 3 fish on one, or sometimes more than that. But most of the time, it's in that 2 or 3 range before it's too torn up to use again. But
yeah, that's a good topic too for maybe something else. Is how many fish should you get out of a soft plastic? Like what do you think? And I guess it would depend on what you're throwing, but like for me to buy a pack of Bandito bugs for how much ever they were, and I mean, you're lucky if you can catch 2 fish on it. If you catch 2 fish on it and it's still, you can get the hook back into the backside of it, I feel like you're pretty lucky to catch 2. And there's a lot of times when, you would hook one that the hook would just rip all the way through it, and it would almost be in 2 pieces with one fish. But
I think it depends on what style bait it is. Because I mean, if I'm throwing a worm, like a trick worm, like I should be able to catch as many fish as I want to catch on that before it's gone. Unless you're dealing with smaller fish or bluegills or something that are biting the tails off, or picking it up and not getting the hook. But in terms of if I'm using an EWG on something, I think between 3 and 5 fish is
Oh yeah, I think
where you're at.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm 3 to 4. If you're getting 5, that's good. And worms, if I'm using a trick worm, I'm usually throwing a shaky head. So once that spot gets worn out, I'll shorten that front of that shaky head worm. I'll shorten the front of the worm up so it hooks in a different spot. I'll just
Right.
nip off the front of it so it moves down. And then finally you moved it down where there's no meat left to really hook the hook. But, then you're really throwing a Ned rig at that point. But
All right, man. Well, that covers our what's your favorite for this week. Man, that's all I've got. You got anything else you want to add to this one?
no, I mean, we're right in the middle of the first day of the Bassmaster kayak deal was today. We didn't talk about it at the front, but I think Guillermo Gonzalez is leading that by maybe an inch or so. There's a lot of fish being caught, and it's pretty tight. I think there's still a lot of people within striking distance, so that's going to be interesting how that shakes out. Drew Gregory's up there, I think, in 5th. Bennett Nall is up there. So be interesting to see how that shakes out. So I'm going to follow that on Tourney X tomorrow. And, that's one of my goals is to eventually qualify and get to go to that. But I really didn't want to go all the way to Texas. So I'm okay not doing that the past year, but I'm still holding a grudge that I missed the Knoxville one, but that was pretty close, but
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I will say shout out to everybody listening or watching on YouTube. So right now, and a lot of this is my fault. We've been talking about marketing today, and I've just not done a very good job of marketing. We are currently at an all-time low in terms of listens on the podcast platforms, but our YouTube is starting. It's grown steadily and significantly all year long. So shout out to everybody who's watching on YouTube, and thank you for your support. You want to close this out in prayer, man?
Yeah, let's do it. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for giving us the ability to spread your word, talk about you, talk about this pastime that we love, the outdoors and fishing. And, thank you for providing us this outlet to a lot of times clear our minds and, reset ourselves and think about you and what we can do to glorify you. Thank you for this past weekend at Merge and the people at Triangle Community Church for helping and hosting that. And please let that message that those young people heard this weekend, please let it work on their hearts. Please let all the listeners who are listening to the podcast, please, find them where they are and meet their needs. And please forgive our sins. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
That's going to do it for this episode. Robert, sign us out.
That's it, man. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Please consider supporting those that support us. Jade's Jigs lead-free finesse tackle. Use promo code FNF10 at jadesjigs.com for 10% off. Save your outdoors. Stop losing your gear. Use promo code FNFP15 at saveyouroutdoors.com for 15% off. Omnia Fishing. Check out Premium, Premium Pro, and their Ambassador program. Use promo code FNF10 for 10% off at omniafishing.com. And if it's your first order, use promo code FNF15 for 15% instead. Mr. B Lure Company. High-quality handmade baits made right here in the U.S. MrBLureCompany.com. Use promo code faithnfishn for 15% off your first purchase. Get outdoors, pedal, and paddle. Check them out at the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or at shopgetoutdoors.com for all your paddling and cycling needs. And Naqua Adventure Gear, lighting, power, and all the connectors at Naqua.com. Please rate, review, subscribe on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care and God bless.